What's up? I'm Drew Paul Bell, and what I want to talk with you about in this video is the A.R.E. So this video is actually a part of the ArchiTalks blog post series, where a lot of architecture bloggers, we all kind of post about the same topic at the same time. And it's a pretty cool opportunity because you can see a lot of different people's perspectives on the same idea. You can really see a lot of the variety that we have in our industry. And this month's topic is the A.R.E. I thought that I needed to do a video on this because this is something that I'm actually in the middle of studying for right now. And I intend on doing some more like in-depth, more comprehensive videos on the A.R.E., but I want to do that after I've finished passing them all. Right now I have 2 exams left, and the way that we take the exams is kind of a complicated story. There used to be 7 exams in the A.R.E. Now there's 6. We're kind of doing this transition, in the middle of this transition process, and I'm actually in the middle of that transition process. So with the way I started taking it in the version 4.0 of the A.R.E., moving into version 5.0 of the A.R.E., the architecture registration exam. And this is obviously to get your license here in the US. You have to pass these. This is one of the components you have to complete in order to practice architecture here in the US, is to get this A.R.E. So I passed 3 exams in 3 months, actually, earlier this year. And I failed my first 2 attempts at the test, and then now I have 2 left. It's been kind of a complicated experience, but I think that the A.R.E. is complicated in general anyway. And here's the reason why. It really differs from a lot of the tests that I was used to taking in college and in high school, because in school, if you're taking a test, there's chances are that like they're going to be over chapters like 1, 2, and 3 or something. Like there's a finite amount of information that test is going to be on. It's stuff that you guys went over in class. It's not going to be some other thing. It's going to be what you went over, because that's what you're being tested on. The A.R.E. though, is not really on a finite amount of information. It's really on a vast amount of information. Lots of things are tangentially related to the things you need to know to be an architect. So for example, one of the very first exams I took was called Construction Documents and Services. Now this was in the 4.0 exam, so this test is no longer available if you haven't started taking the 4.0 exams yet. But that one was about the contract documents. And so within the contract documents, the typical contracts that we use from the AIA, the American Institute of Architects, this outlines a lot of the relationships, the legal relationships between the legal entities involved within architecture: the owner, the contractor, the architect. And so you have to know those things really well, and that in itself seems a little bit finite, but then you have to learn really the questions are about how do you apply that information to scenarios out in the real world. And so the real world is kind of infinite. Like there's an infinite number of opportunities, an infinite number of things to go wrong, an infinite number of situations to find yourself in. Everything's going to be new. And so this is true. So that was true for construction documents and services. It wasn't an exam where like it was a finite amount of things where you could just like, okay, I'm just going to study like these 6 chapters. It's like there's several textbooks that you have to study, and then even then you're still not going to know everything. You just have to have a good enough understanding of the content, a good enough understanding of how an architect would think about this content, that then you can go in and answer questions about it. To the point that there's not a finite amount of information. One of the most challenging parts about studying for the A.R.E. is knowing what to study. And everybody I talked to had an opinion about one of the 2 major publishers of study guide materials, and that was like Ballast or Kaplan, which was recently bought by a company named Brightwood. And so everybody I talked to who's taken the exams or already passed their exams, they had an opinion about whether Brightwood or Ballast was a better material. And I didn't pass my first exam because of the multiple choice questions, which is construction documents and services. And I kept asking people about this, and I didn't study those. I just studied the contract documents because that's mostly what the exam was on. I thought I would cut a corner. I thought I could cut corners. I thought I didn't need to read that. I didn't need to read that whole study guide book. But in reality, it wasn't even that like 1 study guide book was enough. It was that like I had to read 2 study guide books. For the ones that I passed, I knew that I just had to go all in. And I had no social life for like 3 months. It was in between friendships and relationships and things going on and having fun. And it was there's not a lot of that. It was a very sad kind of 3 months, but it was also very focused and very intentional kind of study session. And in the end, that paid off, you know? But But that kind of commitment was something I didn't want to do right after college. And I remember talking to a friend of mine who he graduated the year after me. And he and I were talking about taking the A.R.E, and he was all fired up about it. He wanted to do it right away, and I was kind of having fun being out in the real world and having a life for once, instead of committing to studying and school and homework and everything. So I really wasn't fired up to take it right away. Like even 1 year after I graduated, I still wasn't ready yet, and I kind of had to wait. I think it was 2 years, 2.5 years after I graduated, before I was ready to really take the exams. And that was not only for me like emotionally, right? Like I still had to kind of have some fun and be young for a minute, you know, before I went around committing every moment of my life to studying. But it was that, and then also the knowledge. Like when I got out of college, I didn't have the knowledge to like go sit for an exam. And I know a lot of people who say, oh, you should do it like right away, because that way it's still in your head. Like, I don't know about, like maybe my school was super slack, but like my school, I did not know enough when I graduated college to go sit for an exam. For me, like the exams covered so much stuff, like it covered real life experience. It was the kind of stuff that like the information, even if we had gone over it in college, it wouldn't have stuck. It wouldn't have like stuck on my mind if I didn't have some sort of practical experience in a firm before that. Because like it took, you know, I would be studying like about like negotiations, contract negotiations, whether you're talking about cost plus jobs or you know, the ways that the contracts are structured. It took being in like negotiations for in a design build type of relationship to know and really understand what goes into pricing a job, like pricing these jobs and knowing how like at different phases you're gonna be able to estimate certain things, and certain phases you're gonna be able to have a more certain understanding of what it's going to be. But like it took real life experience tussling with that to be able to study it in a book and it actually sink in and it makes sense. So I think one piece of advice that I would give, if you're like getting out of school, or if you're in school, or you're planning on taking the architecture registration exam, it would be to work in a firm and pay attention. Because to me, like if I need to know something, I'll learn it. I'll learn it easily. But if I can't see the value in something and I don't understand why I need to know that, then it's kind of in one ear and out the other. And unfortunately, in college, like the consequences aren't really there for a lot of the real world stuff. The type of stuff that's on the A.R.E, your professors aren't going to call you on in studio. Anything about contracts or how, or like site planning or programming, like that's the kind of thing where like you might have like a little bit of a discussion about it in school, but like if you don't get it, oh okay, well we're just going to move on. And like that doesn't fly in the real world. You have to actually know that. So the point is that if you maybe you could get away with not knowing a lot of those things in school, and why would you be able to focus on it that way? I think that practicing in the firm exposed me to a lot of these ideas, a lot of these circumstances, that then I understood why I needed to know the stuff I was studying. Also, the studying supported my growth in the firm, because I was studying stuff being like, yeah, this stuff I ought to know. This stuff I should know by now, is how, like, really know how the building goes together. And some of the stuff, some of the drawing details, or some of like the regulatory structures, like at the city or the county that would deal with like permitting, like some of that stuff was stuff that like I needed to know. And maybe I had drawn it or I'd seen it a bunch of times, but because I had never like properly had it explained to me, like I had to go study it. I had to go, like look into like the comprehensive explanation of it, and not just like be like, oh, I picked it up kind of. Like I kind of saw something about it one time, so now I guess I kind of know it. It's like, no, let's actually learn it for real. And so a lot of studying for me was like that. It was necessary not only to pass the exam, but to be more effective in the office, because this is what I'm doing day to day. Like I need to know what I'm doing and be good at it. So I felt that helped me focus, and that helped me kind of like help the content carry more weight, and help me like learn it better, retain the information much better. So I think that's all I want to say in this video. I intend on doing some more comprehensive videos about the different exams and about some things to look for when you're taking the exams. I've been studying practice exam questions, and I want to look at some of the practice exam questions that I've gotten from study guide companies and tell you why the A.R.E would never ask questions like that, and like they word questions totally different. And I'm gonna get some videos out like that here after I'm done taking the tests. But in the meantime, I hope that you can check out the blog posts from the other architecture bloggers here. I'm gonna link that up in the description down below. And there's a bunch of other bloggers posting out mostly written blogs about the A.R.E. I also want to shout out Michael Rosica. He had me on his podcast recently, and we talked a lot more about like my own journey into architecture and a little bit about me taking the exams, a little bit of my experience doing that. So I'm going to link up to that down below as well. Check out his podcast if you haven't listened to it before. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. As always, I hope this helps, and I will talk to you next time.